Hello there, guys, and welcome to Dan's Haunted Cottage. Now, today I would like to talk about something that is kind of tickled my interest, as it were, recently. Now, I'm not one, as you know, for conspiracies. I'm not saying that there isn't some relative issues or there isn't any truths behind conspiracies. I'm just saying that it's not really my bag, as they say. But there is occasionally one or two things that pique my interest, and something I've kind of got into probably the last month or so. I've gone down a rabbit hole, and I want to take you with me. And something that I've kind of has been brought to my attention within the last month or so, and I've been looking up certain documentation of it, is something called the Missing 411. Now, what it is a guy behind it. There's a guy who's doing all the research, and he's got 20 years experience as a member of the police force in the United States. He's also a member of a SWAT team, and what he's been doing is he's been following up all of the information that he's gathered, and he's been looking into it very, very deeply. Now, the Missing 411, what it is there's literally thousands of people gone missing in national parks right the way across North America. Trying to think which the most prevalent one is. The most prevalent park is... it'll come to me later. I can't think of it off the top of my head at the moment. It is... Oh, no, it's Yosemite. And there's been adults, children... predominantly, I think, children gone missing, and they've never been. Well, most of them have never been found. The occasional few that have been found miles away from where they were initially, which kind of is a physical impossibility, or they've been found in the places that have already been searched. The bodies have been found in the places that have already been searched. I think, or I believe, one or two have come back with some sort of fantastical stories. I believe there was one child that returned, and he said that he'd been taken somewhere where there was an army of robots and strange things. A lot of the bodies have been found. Some of the bodies have actually been found on top of mountains or way up in the top of a pass, where it's just impossible for these people to get to. Now, there's been a lot of speculation behind it, but it seems that the park authorities and the government and the police just seem to get involved in the searches initially. And what's happened on a couple of the searches is they brought either the Home Guard or they brought the Green Beret in, which is kind of a little bit overkill for searching for a child, I think, or searching for a missing person. Well, I don't say overkill. I think that's something they should probably do all the time, but this is not the norm for the government to do this, for the American government to do this. So there's questions being asked as to why they brought them in. So, as I say, there's a guy called David Paulides, and he's a very interesting chap. And he's never, ever lead you to a conclusion. He lets you come to your own conclusion. He's written some books, which I believe are quite interesting. I'll have to get my hands on a couple of copies of them. But he never, ever leads you to a conclusion, although I think just recently he's let it known what his thoughts are and what the possibilities are for the people going missing. But there was one particular one. He was a little boy, and he was out with his parents in one of these national parks, and another family came along, and they were both weirdly enough, coincidentally or strangely enough, it seems quite odd, the chance of this happening, but one family came over to this child's family and said, "Hey, we're the Martins," and the family replied, "Hey, we're the Martins as well." And he said, "Okay, we're over here at the park with our family. Would it be okay to sort of play with our boys to play with yours?" So they said, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." So anyway, both families got involved in the game of hide and seek, and the chap whose child had gone missing, he'd seen where his little boy had gone. He'd gone behind a bush, literally within yards of where he was, and when the game was over, he went to search for him. The boy was gone, completely gone. So the chap ran, I think, 2 miles up a pass, which would have been impossible, for a child to make that that distance in no time would have been impossible. Yeah, he'd followed. He basically followed the pass for 2 miles, and he couldn't find his son, just completely missing. So this is when the Green Beret got involved. It was on this particular case, I believe, and they followed. It was very, very. The park authorities and the government were giving misinformation to him. So they were kind of throwing spanners in the works. Now, I'm not sure what the situation is, but they're led to believe that the American government actually knows exactly what's going on, but they're loath to let the public know, which I can see, could be quite credible. Who knows what governments do? And I'm not just saying the American government, world governments are all exactly the same. They're all up to things that we don't know about. And to be honest with you, most of them I don't really want to know about. But it's a very, very big difference when a child or a member of your family or a friend gets lost in the wilderness and you have no information as to where they've gone or what's happened to them. So on one of these instances, a couple apparently had said they came forward to the law enforcement days later, and they said that they were walking along a pass. They were walking along a path, I beg your pardon, a rocky sort of path that was through the mountains. And they heard a noise and they looked up and they saw something very hairy. Could have been a man, could have been a whatever. But it was walking upright, and on its shoulder it looked like it was carrying a child. Now, the thing that I find very unusual about this is, why didn't they... Maybe it would have been possible to give chase to whatever it was, but why on earth didn't they get to the authorities straight away and report this? Why did they come back when they heard on the radio that there was a child gone missing near to where they were? Now, this is discussed as well as misinformation that is given out by the authorities to the family and to the press. Now, it's very sketchy. Now, I don't know what's going on. It seems to be that nobody does. Well, obviously somebody does. Now, David Paulides seems to think, he's come forward and he seems to think that he's researched. They found hair on articles of clothing that have been found from the missing people. And when they've had the hair looked at in laboratories, it comes back with no chemical or structural makeup of either animal or human. It seems to be a completely different entity or being. So he's not come to the conclusion, but I think he thinks very much along the lines that it could be something to do with a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Now, again, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I know the man's very credible. From what I've seen and what I've looked at and what I've read about him, he seems very credible. But it just begs the question, what's going on? What's going on? And it's not, these clusters of people that go missing seem to be in certain pockets of these national parks. It's all around national parks. I think there's a few that have gone missing in urban areas that have got the same MO as the ones that have gone missing in the national parks. But I don't really know what the situation is. It just strikes me very, very odd and very unusual. Now, I don't know if Sasquatch is real or he isn't, but now that, I would have thought that, I know there's places and the wilderness is a vast landscape and you're never going to know everything about that land. We probably know more about the face of the moon now than we do our own planet. But we've certainly got more mapped on the moon than we have over here. But there are inhospitable places and places that are uninhabitable that, human feet haven't ever set foot before. But now they're starting to talk about, and again, this is not really my field. Cryptids, ufology is not really my field. It interests me, but, I'm purely and simply a ghost guy. Hey, they could all be connected, interconnected, I don't know. But interdimensional. So it seems that they're talking about them as interdimensional beings. They're talking about them as kind of something to do with ufology. They're saying that, are they interdimensional? Do they step across from one dimension into ours, then abduct people, and then take them into the next dimension, and obviously you can't find them. Can they open portals? This is what people are seeming to talk about now as regards Sasquatch and call them what you want, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever. I don't know. Who knows what goes on in this world? Who knows what goes on this planet? It's blinking interesting looking and listening and hearing these different philosophies and ideas. I don't think anything is too crackpot, to be honest, because we just don't know. Who knows what goes on? But it is intriguing and interesting to think what's going on. And more important, I think the thing that really strikes me and the thing that I find very fearsome and terrifying is not just the fact that people are going missing, not the fact that it could be interdimensional beings, not the fact that it could be Bigfoot or anything to do ufology, Sasquatch, what have you. It's why has the government been quiet? And clearly they are, because they're misdirecting, they're putting out misinformation to not only the public, but to the families of these people. So they do know. I think they know. What they know, I don't know. It is interesting. And of course it begs the question, I mean, you know, there have been, I think there is a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, and it does intrigue me, Sasquatch, it really does. There is a Sasquatch sort of hunting company or hunting club over here or organisation, and I always thought, well, you know, I can understand it in places like, you know, the forests of Ukraine or Romania or Russia, or where it's just a vast landmass of European landmass and it's untouched and you don't know what goes on in there, or North America, which again is a vast continent. I can understand things going missing there, and I can understand there's theories and philosophies there, but over here I never could. I couldn't understand. I mean, we've got very little forest as it is. We're only really a small island. Something that big, hairy and unusual couldn't hide itself. However, if we're looking at interdimensional, well, that's a different story altogether, isn't it? If somebody could open a door, step in, step back out again and close that door, we'd never been on the wiser. They could do it in, well, clearly they can do it in small spaces because the child went missing but a few yards from his father when he was out in the national park. But I don't know, it just intrigues me. I don't know what you guys think. It's not my usual bag. It's not really something you might ever hear from me again speaking about, but it just intrigues me. It just, it's kind of I've got the bit between my teeth now, and I'm just looking. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds off the graph, as it were. But who knows? Who knows what goes on in this weird and wonderful world? You know, who knows what reality is? Nobody does, do they? Really? You know, we haven't really got a grasp or a concept on anything really. You know, we just, like most people, we get our heads down, we muddle through life, we do daily chores, do our daily things, life becomes mundane. But who knows what the real excitement beyond reality, or even within this reality, is? Who knows what concepts there are out there that we can't grasp the idea of? But I don't know. It was just a flourishing thought, something that interested me. So if you want to look for it, look for a guy called David Paulides, and it's called The Missing 411. Just intrigued me. It piqued my interest. So that's a rabbit hole, another rabbit hole I've stuck my head down. I must stop sticking my head down rabbit holes, because one day I might find something that's not a rabbit. So anyway, that was just a little, just me sounding off, really. I hope it makes sense to you. It certainly doesn't make any sense to me. My head is still a muzzy trying to work it out and come to some conclusion. I don't suppose I ever will, but not unless the government decides to allow us privileged information. Who knows? Maybe these things we're not meant to know. Maybe these things we don't want to know. I'd like to know about that one, though. Oh, well, never mind. So, if the men in black come knocking on my door and you don't see a video from me for a while, you probably know why. Right, guys, take it easy. Speak soon. Enjoy your Sunday and the rest of your weekend. There's not much of it left. And I will speak to you a very soon.